Can't believe that it's August. How about that? Well, welcome to Unapologetically Keith. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9:30 to 10. But I'm probably going to make it 9:30 to 10:30. But we'll see. The way the chat has been going, I think I'm going to add that extra half an hour. But we will see. And so I am Keith K. Velvin. I am a crisis specialist. What I do is I try to assist people who are in negative situations to try to help move them through that situation by being a sympathetic ear and by allowing them and helping them to plan their escape from the dark and negative place that they may be in. So every week here on Unapologetically Keith, we look at different subjects and try to figure out a way to have a conversation about them. And the chat room is where it really goes down. Shout out to the people that listen and watch me, because that is where the excitement really happens. I try to do what I can. And so let me do a little housekeeping. You are watching me on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube Live. So I appreciate being on the 3 platforms. And remember, I cannot see you. So the only way that I can acknowledge you is if you type in the chat room and introduce yourself, and I will gladly acknowledge you. That way, I know that you're watching and we can have a conversation, because I would prefer a dialogue instead of me having a monologue. And then also what I'm going to start doing is we will be moving on some days to Zoom rooms to have basically breakout conversations, more intimate conversations, in a way that I can get to know you guys who are in the chat room, and we can actually see each other and have very good, hopefully extended conversations that start right here on Unapologetically Keith. So if you're watching on Periscope, make sure that you tap the screen. That way the heart rate goes up. And well, not my heart rate, but the number of hearts that I receive go up. And this way it lets me know that you enjoy the content. Also here on Facebook, make sure that you like this live video and make sure that you share it. And when you share it, make sure that you leave a little message when you share it. That lets other people know when you share it why they should watch. And by sharing it, also make sure that the people in your circle get to learn who I am. The third thing that I normally ask people to do is to support what I do, but you don't have to worry about that now. I'll ask again at the end, because it is my job to entertain you and to make sure that I give you reason to support. So with that said, I'm going to get ready to get started, because for the last 4 shows, we've talked about domestic violence. It has been very revealing, very entertaining, and I've learned a lot from the research that I've done, as well as from listening to the stories of the survivors and the social workers and the different individuals that we've had here in the chat room. And having gone through my own abuse, yes, I suffered abuse when I was younger. Hey, Tony, I've suffered abuse when I was younger. And dealing with that abuse, which has allowed me to be in a position to help folks, I understand that abuse can come. Hey, Queen Nikita, good to have you. Abuse can come in many forms. And everything has a genesis. Everything has a starting point. Everything has a reason for its creation. We may not always understand the reason. We may not actually be able to see that. But I wanted to now discuss the movie Color Purple, one of my favorite movies. I actually seen it in the movies in 1986, showing my age. I was in the movies. I even remember who I was with when I went to go see it. And I knew that when I got to the end of the movie, so in 1986, I was 19 years old. Hey, how you doing, Kim? 19 years old. When you're a 19-year-old boy and you cry towards the end of a movie, hey, Tracy, good to see you. Good to see all of you ladies. When you cry at the end of a movie when you're 19 years old, when you're on a date, it's kind of soft, but it actually endeared me. It actually endeared me to the young lady that I was with. But I can tell you this. I knew then that it was going to be one of my favorite movies, simply because not the all-black cast. That's always an outstanding thing for me. And the acting was incredible. but it was the message and the strength of the movie itself. And I think one of the things that always resonated with me is that I always understood Mississilli. And it's because when you are a boy growing into a man who lived in a house full of women, it stood out to me because I understood what that's like to feel like you're all alone, and what that's like when it just seems like just nothing is going your way. And every time, good evening, Tracy. Every time that I watch it, it's it's one of those movies that you can watch 1,000 times, and you literally know what's going to happen, but it's just that good. But tonight was a little bit different, guys. Tonight was a little bit different. And I guess on the heels of everything that we've talked about, with everything that all of you ladies have shared in the last 4 days, I really have been moved with listening to the stories. I have been lucky enough that many of you have shared your stories with me off of the show here. And in doing that, it has really just been, it's been fantastic, because when you do anything, when you try to tackle a subject like this, and again, let me give a big shout out to Tony for asking me to do this. You come away with, okay, so how do I do this, and what do I do? And I had no idea. I had no idea that it would go this well, that I would be able to learn so much from all of you and all of your stories. And so next Tuesday, I want to just say that next Tuesday, we're going to be in a Zoom room, because I want to be able to talk with each of you directly. I was trying to find something, so excuse me. I'll find it another time. I did a sermon where it's called, it was Mississilli, the Mississilli Factor. That's the name of it. And it just talks about how I understood what Mississilli was going through when you fast forward towards the end of the movie, and she's in the church and everybody is celebrating Sugar Avery, but yet she's still sad. And when you get to that point in the movie and you realize, oh, but I'm gonna back up a second. Let me go with this. And you may go, Keith, what does any of this have to do with domestic violence? In the first 15 to 20 minutes of The Color Purple, there is so much there that shrieks of abuse. And tonight was different when I watched the movie. I found myself emotional. And I don't normally get emotional in the first couple minutes of the movie, because I know what's going to happen. I know the whole story. I run it through my head with my eyes closed. But tonight I was watching because I was doing research. And tonight I was hearing all of your voices that you have put in this chat room over these last week about what you guys have gone through. And then I started thinking of all the things that we had shared in terms of what it looks like, and what domestic violence is, and what abuse is. And we start off the movie where we see two girls playing in a purple field. Seems innocent, and the sound innocent. If you start from that position, and I want you to go watch it, and after we get finished talking tonight, I want you to go and watch it. And I want you to kind of try to watch it through the lens that I'm going to give you, because it's going to spark some emotion, because I know it did in me. At least I hope it does. You guys with me tonight? Put a 1 in the chat room if you're with me tonight. So if I get a little sappy tonight, I want you to rock out with me. I'm an emotional dude, as Erykah Badu says. I'm an artist. I'm emotional about well, you know the rest with what Sister Badu says. If you're with me, put a 1 in the chat room. Tracy, Nikita, Kim, Tony, put a 1 in the chat room if you're still with me. Thank you, dog. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So you see 2 girls playing, innocent, and it started to remind me of any young girls playing. And then they come out into the clearing. I have it too. It's sitting right here on Hulu. I'm about to watch it too. I'm gonna watch it after we get off, Tony. I just got to get one thing. I got to get prepared for tomorrow, but I'm going to watch it if I go to bed tonight. So you see, and I want you just to focus on the first 20 minutes. I want you to watch the whole movie, but I want you to watch the first 20 minutes on up to when Nettie comes to live with them, because we know the movie. And listen, we could be here for hours talking about it because I love it. But I just want to go up into that point. So when Celia is still young. So when they come out from the clearing, we see that Celia's pregnant. And automatically, the movie changes. So what started off as 2 innocent little girls playing in the field and chasing each other and having fun and all of that, this little girl is pregnant. Now, we don't know how old she is until we find out later on. But if we just look at her, we can see that she's 12, 13, 14 years old. So, of course, who got this little girl pregnant? And then we move to her having a baby. Actually, even before that, I wrote it here. The father walks up and tells him it's time to come to the house. And he says, Celia, you got the ugliest smile this side of creation. So you see the abuse. So we went from 2 little kids playing to this man walking up, grown, older man. And he walks up and says, the ugliest smile this side of Celia, you have the ugliest smile this side of creation. And we start to talk about seeing the things that we talked about this past week. And this is what we start to see. Celia's father was her first abuser. See, because we still don't know who got her pregnant, but we just watched a man walk up and just humiliate her for no reason. She was just playing. And walks up and says, you have the ugliest smile this side of creation. And you see her expression change. And so when we talk about humiliation, yeah, right there, the verbal, and that's what I'm talking about, the verbal humiliation, the intimidation, the frightening, the sexual abuse. I'm going to get into all 3 or 4 of those, but right there, Tony, and that's what we talked about throughout the week, was we talked about the psychological, the emotional, and the psychological, because here's the thing. He's saying you're the ugliest thing this side of creation, but you're the abuser. You're having sex with your daughter. Because later on we see her giving birth, and the daughter, the younger daughter, Nettie, is delivering the child. We know that Nettie is younger than Celia. And she's in pain, the door is swinging back and forth, and he's standing there. Are y'all done yet? You don't rush childbirth. So again, the intimidation, the to be made to feel less than a human, just, are you done yet? Like an animal. And she got to hold the baby for a hot second. And then he takes the baby and she literally says, can I keep him? And he said, and I wrote it down because, man, I was, and it's different when you look through it through a different lens. Because then the father turns to her and made her feel again even more helpless. You better not tell anyone but God. The truth will kill your mother. So again, silencing her with intimidation, fear that something's going to happen to her mom. And then we find out this is the second child. And she's 14. That means you got her pregnant at 14 or 13. And this is the second child, which means you got her pregnant at 11 or 12. This is her second child with this fool. And it's like, hey, Kira, how we doing, love? And it's like, she didn't even get to see the baby, didn't even get to hold the baby. And then you tell her, you better not tell anyone but God. Literally saying the only person that's going to be able to listen to you is God. That's the only person that can help you. So you basically ain't going to get no help. And I'm like, wow. Because when you start to run back through all the things that we've talked about over this past week, guys, of real abuse. And I'm not saying what's on the television isn't real, but it is real because when we align it with what we've heard from the women that have shared here, Tony, Nikita, and Kim, and others who have shared here, we know that it's real. We know that men are that way because we have real women. Thank you. It killed her self-esteem and she felt worthless. And I'm so glad you said that, Kira, because I have something for that. Because it's the proof. She, in that first 20 minutes, that everything is put in that first 20 minutes. I'm telling you, if you pay attention to it, and I know you guys are going to go back and watch it. And her father sold the children. Sold the children. She said, I think they might, I don't know if he killed them. I heard he sold them. And it's crazy because if you really look at the two, Nettie was a fighter. She was younger. She was fighting because every time Celie would put her head down, every time Celie would her self-esteem would start to feel like Kira just said was killing her self-esteem, Nettie would try to pump it up. Nettie would tell her, no, pick your head up. And Nettie would say, no, that's not true. You're not ugly. And Nettie was that light, that thing that was trying to keep her like and I guess maybe it's because Nettie was younger, because she definitely was younger, because we hear later on that the father was trying to do whatever to Nettie, but she was younger at the time, so he did whatever to Celie. But Nettie's youth and the fact that she was still innocent. And then imagine you being the younger sister and you now got to help your older sister give birth to a child and to watch the father take the baby away. And because they shared everything with each other, she had to tell her what happened, because we hear them joking about it later on when she's like, and before you even get finished praying, I'm going to climb up on you and do my business. If you just listen to the wording, and as a poet, I listen to words because I love words. I love what words do when you really pay attention to them. But here's my question to you guys. I want to ask you this before I go forward. Do you think their mother knew? I think she did. Do you think, and I'm going to show you using the words from the movie. Do you think, I'm going to ask you guys in the chat room, do you think their mother, because the mother was still alive, because she said, if your mother find out, how does your mother not question how your 14-year-old is pregnant? But she said, you better not tell your mother. So do y'all think the mother knew? It took her faith in God away too. Yeah. Tracy, you said you think. Yes, I think she did. Yeah. So Tracy says she thinks the mother knew. Kira said, I think the mother knew. Tony says she think the mother knew. Here's where I believe why I think the mother did. And I'll ask the question is, did the mother know about the abuse going on? He said, Celie said, he said to me, you're going to do what your mother wouldn't. Why did the mother stop having sex? See, if a woman is going to stop performing her wifely duties, there's a reason for that. Some women look the other way. Exactly. T to the Y, what's going on, brother? I haven't seen the movie in a long time. I think she knew. Thank you. Please watch it again. But after the night, watch it, because in those first 20 minutes, you're going to see, you're going to see and feel the abuse. She said if she wasn't leaving, so Tracy said if she wasn't leaving the house, who else is there? Exactly. Exactly. So I think the mother knew, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when, like I said, when Celie says, Father said, you're going to do what your mother wouldn't. So moms didn't stop having sex. So now you're going to just prey on your child. But here's the thing right here. When Celie's mother died, this is what Celie said. She died cussing and screaming from a broken heart. So you went out with a broken heart because you knew what this man was doing. Kira said the mother allowed it because she refused to have sex with her husband. That's why he went for the daughter. I agree. But I think that's what just the men of that time were doing. And the women had no voice, so they just would let it rock. And it just struck me because when they were going to the funeral, it was like, so then she said, I think he's lost interest in me. And I put it here. She said, you know, he's got eyes for Nettie. And she says, I'll take care of you with God's help. So she's still thinking about her sister and protecting her sister, even though her esteem for herself is just not there. And that's the child part of her. I'll protect you with God's help. And when you listen to, it through a child's voice, it's different. And I think that's why watching the movie tonight was different. Because I've been reading about abuse all week. And as a person who invites people to bring that to me, it's like you sit back and you always think, my God, like what causes a person to want to abuse a child? And as a father of a daughter, a very vibrant daughter, that's something I'm always mindful of because I know we live in a very perverse world. She risked her own self to protect her sister. Exactly right. And here's the thing that I want you to pay attention to when you watch. She said, I hope he finds someone to marry. And he said, but he's been looking at Nettie, but she's younger. So she was actually hoping that he found somebody to marry. So this way he would stop looking at Nettie. She'd rather sacrifice herself to protect her sister. Exactly right, Kira. So when he said, I hope she finds somebody to marry, because of course he's looking at the sister and she said she would protect her. Here's the thing. When he went to get married and he's coming down the aisle with the new young girl, he said, Father found a new young girl in town. She's just about my age. Now we know she's 14. So this young lady's either 13, 14 or 15. Again, when you go watch the movie, please pay attention to this. When they're in the church and Mr. is staring over at Nettie and they joking about how, you know, he's always smiling. Here come Mr. on Sundays or whatever. I want you to watch how the little girl in the wedding dress turns and looks back at Celie and Nettie. And you see the sadness as if she knows she's going to be abused too. Yes, she prayed for him to marry somebody young and knew so he wouldn't mess with her sister. Exactly right. And as he was getting married, again, when you watch the movie tonight, tomorrow, whenever you watch it, watch the little girl's face in the wedding dress. And she turns around and looks back at what we can only assume is Nettie and Celie. And you see the sadness in her face. And the reason why this takes hold for me is that we already see in the news, we have people like Jeffrey Epstein and we have other folks out here. There's a pattern of young, innocent girls. There it is. Thank you, Ty. And we see the Jeffrey Epsteins and Donald Trumps and all these people who were going out to the Bahamas or whatever the island was that he had on Jamaica, wherever the hell it was. And they literally were abusing young girls. So again, we see that what we were seeing, and I think this was in the 1920s, going on right now. And we see 75,000 young ladies who have been turning up missing of color over the last 5 to 10 years because we know this is real. And so domestic violence feeds into this because this is where the abuse starts. It starts when you have some man like this. Now, we learned later on that this wasn't her actual father, that this was a stepfather, but it doesn't matter. This is a grown man abusing his daughter, which then opened up the door. Here comes Mister. And so when Mister comes and he's after Nettie, well, the first abuser to the second abuser goes, you can't get to her for I do. He said, you can't have my Nettie, not now, not ever. Because he's saying, I have plans on her because she's the prettier one and she's a little too young, but I'm waiting for her to get there because I'm going to get mine first. That's basically what he was saying. And so Mister was like, well, I've never looked at the other one. He preyed on the innocent as he did not treat the older women with overpower. Exactly. And because of those times a woman couldn't or shouldn't have said nothing to a man, then that's part of it too. And we'll get to that later on if we have time. So when Mister goes, I never looked at the other one. Let me see. He was supposed to protect her, not pray. Exactly. But the funny thing with that, Tracy, and Tracy says he was supposed to protect her, not prey on her. Here's the thing, Tracy, that's interesting is that this was the culture. Abuse was baked into the cake, and I'll show you. So we see the stepfather abusing her. He says, step there, let him see you. But then he said to her, you can have the other one. She's spoiled. And I wrote that down here somewhere. Or did I put in the caption? He says she's spoiled twice. So again, demeaning her. Demeaning her and saying she's spoiled twice. As if she's not standing right there. And it was like, there it is. So she was 14 years old with 2 children, considered spoiled twice by the person who abused her. And now I'm going to pass you off on to the next person. Now I'm going to pass you off on to Mister. They're very much so. Kira said he degraded her. He degraded her and took away her innocence. And so at this point, but you can't have the one I haven't touched yet, but you can have her. So you see that the domestic violence started with right there inside the home because it started out with molestation, which then turned into domestic violence because then we see Mister now has her. And this is where you know it's baked into the cake. As they're coming up to the house, one, she has to walk behind the horse in the snow with the cow. And they get up to the house and Harpo hits her in the head with a rock. But I want to go back real quick because I want to go back to the father second. Her father passed on and told the next man it was okay to abuse her. Said to Mister, you can do all the things you like, she won't put up a fuss. So he had already positioned Mister to be in position to abuse his stepdaughter. And even made that a selling point for why he should now take her with him to be the moms. Now, I don't know if y'all ever checked it. If you go back and watch the movie and you listen, Mister's wife was killed by her boyfriend. I was like, what? Wait a minute. How? They had entanglements in the 1920s? Mister's wife was killed by her boyfriend, and now he's going out to get somebody else's daughter to replace the wife that was killed by her boyfriend. What the hell is going on in this town? That is a clear entanglement right there. And I don't know if y'all have ever peeped that. But again, like I said, I was watching hard those first 20 minutes. I was taking so many notes that I said, I'll go back and finish watching the rest of the movie because if I keep taking these notes, I'm going to have a whole notebook full of notes. I was like, I didn't pay attention to that the first time, that this man's wife was killed by her boyfriend. What in the BS is this? So again, and it just didn't make any sense. And when you have a situation like that where you destroyed someone's self-esteem to that degree, you've left this child vulnerable to whoever and whatever. Yeah, I had to I had to rewind that and watch it again, Kara, because I was like, wait a minute, that plays into this too, because he's out trying to get another woman because the woman that he had got killed by her boyfriend, so she was out doing whatever. Like, and when you watch the rest of the movie, and we know when Sugar Avery shows up and everything like that, it speaks to it because you see Albert and Sugar Avery's husband later on. I know I'm jumping ahead where they're joking. You had her your way, I had my way, but we had her. And she's sitting back laughing about it. Because the man could just do whatever he wanted to do. But again, I'm going to stay focused on those first 20 minutes. And so now moving towards going back to the house. Harpo and the other two little girls are waiting outside. This your new mammy. That ain't my mama. And hit in the head with a rock. First of all, for a child to be that child was going to hit whoever in the head. Many thought I missed it as well. But we had Sugar Avery. Why couldn't his wife get? But he had Sugar Avery. Why couldn't his wife go get hers? I'm not saying she couldn't, Tracy. I'm just saying the fact that the boyfriend killed her. You can go do you. We saw what Sugar Avery was doing her thing and was pimping him, punking him. Excuse me, Mr. Albert. She didn't even know his name, Albert, as we see later on in the movie. Sugar Avery was okay with her sexuality. And as you learn from Mr.'s father about, she done set the town of what's name, Hopewell, the population of Hopewell, all-time high, which means she was out here doing whatever. She was nasty. Her own father turned his back on Sugar Avery, but she was okay with her sexuality. And if you read the book, which I did, her and Celie had a relationship, so, it opened up the door to lesbianism as well. Sugar Avery was just a free spirit. She was going to hump whoever she wanted to hump, when she wanted to hump, and how she wanted to hump. And I ain't mad at that. Do you? But another thing, too, is that, like I said, when she gets to the house and Harpo hits her in the head with the rock, Harpo was going to hit whoever he pulled up with. That's not my mom. So again, why did the little boy know it was okay? Now you see Mr. chasing him with a belt, and you see her run around, bloody head and everything. But the idea that he was going to hit the woman, abuse a grown woman with a rock. Well, she wasn't even grown. She probably was only a couple years older than Harpo. And then again, we see the sexual abuse going on. We see this little girl laying there with a grown man humping her, and she's just laying there with a bandaged head. And it's the idea of a father saying to another man, from abuser to abuser, you can do whatever. And then we see another little boy, now a junior abuser, who, and then at one point smiled at her when she was cleaning the kitchen. He was smiling through the window, like, yeah, I hit you in the head, it's whatever. But again, all this is centered around the fact that the women, Celie was being treated like an object. And we're made to see that. We're made to feel that. We're made to understand that this is the depth of this abuse. And when we start to say, are we watching a movie or are we watching a documentary? Because we know that to be true. And the reason why we know it to be true, just go back and look at all the wonderful stories that you women, I'm not saying they're wonderful about what happened, but just the fact that you shared. Look at all the depth of the stories that you women have shared about your own experiences. So we know it to be real in some form or fashion. And this is where art allows us in to some things that maybe we may not be privy to, especially myself. And that's why watching it this time was more emotional than any other time, because I was already filled with the emotion of what we had this past week with everybody. And when she's laying in the bed, she says, I lay there why he do what he do, looking at the pretty woman in the picture, thinking, does she like what he's doing, that she probably likes what he's doing to me. So again, she doesn't even allow herself to be in the moment because she knows that's just do your business. Because we hear that conversation later on with her and Suge Avery. He just doing his business on me. She said, you make it sound like he going to the bathroom on you. She said, that's what it feels like. And then we see that Mr. uses physical abuse to keep her in line. And already she was removed from her sister, so she didn't have that connection. And by removing her from the sister, so again, it's her just being all by herself. And that was something that I seen as a reoccurring theme, which all of us know watching the movie, that is the reoccurring theme, is that the sister was the only one who loved her for her. I think Suge Avery grew to love her later on, but up until that point, and it was just tough to see. And then when she was in town and she saw the preacher's wife holding her daughter, and yes, she had no support system, Kim. And that's the thing that I wanted to bring to the table with you guys, because I know you guys have gone through what you've gone through to free yourself from your situation. And God, I can't wait till next Tuesday to be able to just sit and listen to some of you guys' stories and just be a fly on the wall and just hear what y'all have to say about how you were able to just make it. Because I think it's very important that when we tell stories, and especially as an author and as a poet, when we tell words, it helps. Tony says, and Mr. knew it, reason why he kept her away. Yes, exactly. And it's important because when she saw her daughter, she's like, who's her father? She's like, the pastor. And she's like, okay, and all of that. And then when she was holding her, the woman, the pastor's wife, looked at her and she said, she said, well, I call her something else. I forgot to write her name, but I call her Olivia. She said, why you call her that if that's not her name? She said, well, look at her eyes. She got old eyes. With eyes like that, I call her Olivia. And then she turned and she looked at Celie. And she saw that Celie had those same old eyes. And you could see at that point, she was like, let me get my baby and get up out of here, because that's the mother. And you just see Celie just not wanting to let go. And then the mother, takes her and walks out. But it's, again, the abuse that even what you produced, you can't have. And, of course, we toss in the little racial component. He's like, you won't buy anything, gal, just to scare her. And she runs out the store. And then Nettie shows up. And when Nettie shows up, she says, you think he'll let me stay? And she said, I couldn't fight him off no more, so I ran off. Hey, Ioka. Good to see you, Dow. So you see that Nettie goes, I couldn't fight him off anymore, so she ran away. So Nettie wasn't playing. I fought, she said, I fought, and when I couldn't fight no more, I ran off. And we see that from the beginning, that Nettie is resisting and trying to keep her sister to resist. Even when she's called ugly, Nettie goes, no, you're not. No, you're not ugly. Because of their connection to each other. Because remember, Nettie is the one that's birthing her children. Nettie's there for the lies too. Nettie's there for the abuse too. And they share it. And the reason why they share it is because when she says, can she stay? And he says, yeah, we can now. She can stay, because, of course, automatically the abuser in him starts to go back to Nettie was the one he wanted to begin with. And you see him start to compliment Nettie, and you see him say, nice dress, nice hair, nice teeth, which they're joking about, which little girls do. They're in their bedroom, and you see them joking, and you see Nettie talking about how he complimented my face, my teeth. And then she starts imitating him and then says, and before you can even finish your prayers, he going to jump on top of you and do his business. And they laugh. But then Celie says, he's going to make his move on you. And she was like, I know. And then they're starting to worry about if she's going to be able to stay. And who's right outside the room listening? Mr. See, a domestic a person who's well entrenched into being the abuser, he's going to try to cover every angle. He wants to hear everything. He wants to be in control of every aspect that's going on. And the only reason why Nettie's staying is because he wants to abuse her too. And we see that. And we see that lead up to that. And it was interesting, but once Mr. couldn't get his way, hey Charlotte, how we doing? Great to have you tonight. Once Mr. couldn't get his way, well, let me back up a little bit. When they were hanging up clothes, and I thought this was interesting too, because I looked at Nettie, I was thinking about Nettie, and I said, you know what, Nettie, outstanding, because Nettie fought, Nettie ran away, she educated herself, and she used the education of herself to protect herself. So she said to Celie, you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to, that's why she started teaching her to read. It was normalized. Thank you. Very, very true, Ioka. Remember, she said to her, you're going to have to learn. And so she was like, if I could teach you to read, if I can teach you how to be more of yourself, if I can teach you how to understand that you're greater than what you are, because remember, and I thought it was very, very important when she said, you have to fight. And Nettie said, where's my, oh, there it is. Nettie tried to get Celie to fight. Celie said, I don't know how to fight. Actually, she said, I don't know how to fight. All I know how to do is stay alive. Let that sink in for a second. Think about that for a second. A 14-year-old girl, pregnant twice and having both children taken away, abused by a man that she thought was her father, given to another man who's abusing her. And her sister's trying to get her esteem up to be able to fight back. And she says, I don't know how to fight. All I know how to do is stay alive. And the sister says, well, I'm going to teach you. And we're going to start with you learning how to read. And so once Mr. realized he couldn't have his way with Nettie, now I got to break those two up. Now I got to get them out of it. Now I got to get her out of here. Because at this point, Mr. can't have what he wants. So there's no way he's going to allow Celie to have her sister. And all of us have seen the movie, guys. But in those first 20 minutes, up until when he runs Nettie off, and then after that, he puts her in a position where, again, intimidation. Come shave me. You better not cut me. If you cut me, I'll kill you. And we see that later on. And then when she goes to read, because remember, she says, can I see the letter from Nettie? You better not touch that mailbox. I have it fixed. And I know if you touch it, I'll get you. Again, intimidation. Can I see the letter from Nettie? Ain't no letter come from you. She says she would write. And then that moment when she finds the piece of paper on the floor. And I remember that line, and it stuck with me my whole life when she says she write, but she don't write. She said only death would keep her from it. Maybe she dead. And you see her hold, and you see her go in the room, and then she goes from being the younger Celie to Oprah to Whoopi Goldberg. And I don't care what anybody say, that's Whoopi Goldberg's best acting to this day, because it was memorable. And we could talk about the movie for days because there's so much there. That's just the beginning. The Suge Avery alone is a whole conversation. And Oprah Winfrey's part is a conversation that you got to fight back, even to the point. And then we know the classic line that all my life I had to fight. So the woman child ain't safe in a house full of men. There's something, again, there's that philosophy, that mindset of you can do whatever you want to women. And you actually see Miss Sophia say, bust Mister in the head and worry about heaven later. But we see that Mister's father, Adolf Caesar, is another one that promotes that behavior. And the reason why I brought it up is because, as I said to you at the beginning of this, is that everything has a genesis. Everything has a beginning. Domestic violence, as we talked about last week, we talked about experiences. She started live. This is where I started seeing her strength. Good evening. Great deep dive into the piece of literature, Art Imitating Life. Thank you, Edith. I appreciate you. Glad you're here. And I appreciate the compliment. Thank you, Tony. But I think what we have to do, and I'm a movie junkie, and I'm going to tell you why. I just love movies. I once taught a whole class in junior high school with no textbooks. We used all films. I have my curriculum book around here somewhere in 2004. But the reason why tonight, and I'm going to go watch it again, I'm going to go finish watching it. So, because there's so much there when you look at what we talked about this week. When you look at, hold on. When we look at we talked about what actions are considered domestic violence, right? We talked about that. We talked about intimidation. We saw that. Manipulation. We saw that. Humiliation. We saw that. Isolation. We saw that. We saw frightening, terrorize, blame, hurt, injury. We saw that. All in that first 20 minutes. And then we looked at establishing a connection, a pattern of abusive behavior. We've seen that. We've seen denial, where this is what I need to do to stay alive, so it is what it is. You've seen the things that were played out in front of us. And then when you think of all the things that you guys shared in the chat room of the men who have placed their hands on you guys, we know that it's real. So now the question before over these last couple of minutes that we can talk, how do we now get other people that are in this position out of it? I don't know the young lady's name, but I had a young lady come in she commented on the post from today's Wednesday, Monday, and she said it doesn't start with one step. I work with women, and she said it doesn't start with one step. And I don't debate online. I don't. Okay, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I do like to meditate on what people say. And I said, I don't think she understands where I'm coming from when I say one step. One step doesn't solve the problem. One step is the action that's necessary to move you into position to start heading towards the solution. And then when I did respond, I said, you're entitled to your opinion, but I was trying to explain to her. And then some of the things that she was saying, I said, we covered in other shows. So if you go back, and I tagged her in all 3 of the previous shows because I wanted her to see that we talked about this thoroughly. So I was speaking, but the one thing I will never do comes to this subject here of domestic violence, I will never place myself in a position where I tell a woman anything about what this is. I can only give my opinion. And that's why I said to her, you're welcome to your opinion. And it's almost like she took it as a disrespect, but I was never, and I will never try to disrespect a woman by saying anything negative. I was saying you're welcome to your opinion, meaning that it's yours to have, even though I may not agree with it, but you're welcome to it. And I was really just being professional, but I don't think she understood what I meant by one step. Is that Celie, and all of us remember the movie, when Sugar Avery goes, I'm going out to the mailbox. Celia is cooking a turkey, and I'm trust me, I'm going off the top of my head. I know the movie like the back of my hand. Celia just put a piece of bread in her mouth, and she's like, Mr. said don't touch the mailbox. She says, oh, please, if I wait on Albert, I'll grow old. And she goes out to the mailbox. She comes back in with the mail, and she says, come with me. And she says, wait, I got to finish cooking. Come with me. And they go upstairs, and she gives her the letter. And if you remember, the petals from the flower fall out. And you see her start to read, and she can't finish, and Suge picks up the letter and starts reading it for her. And you see her sniffing the flowers, and she's basically, Nettie's alive. Because remember, she had gave up and thought Nettie was dead. And Mr. never let her get the mail. And in the letter it says, I only write at the holidays hoping that Mr. gets drunk with the spirits and decides to give you the letters. And that's when they go and search and find that Mr., even amongst all his evil, never got rid of the letters. Now, for whatever reason, he kept them. To us Christian folks, that little hint of God in some of the most evilest people was enough to hold those letters, because that was what was going to be enough. Because remember, she said, what there's so many of them. What am I going to do with them? And again, Suge Avery, who's on her game, says you're going to go to my room and put them together by the postmark. Basically, put them together by the dates. And then we start to see the story change, where we get to see her now, Nettie's voice. And that is her first step. Now she's starting to see it now. So Tony says, I use the mirror analogy. You have to look at yourself and know your worth. I talked to myself in the mirror many times until I had the worst done to me. It was enough. Thank you so much, Tony. And I'm so glad you made that move to get out of your situation. Because if you also remember, Celi's facial expressions changed too. And she was now taken by those letters, because now her lifeline was back. Her heartbeat was back. And now, remember, Suge Avery knows this too. So when she's sitting there and she said, where's Celi? She said, fitting the shave, mister. Now remember, he had slapped her in the face and said, get the molasses out your ass and come get ready to shave me. And you see the blood in her nose. And so when Suge thinks about it, Lord, she's going to cut that man's throat. And that's when you see the African drums, and we're getting the flashback from Nettie, and we're getting the back and forth, and you see her, she said, lift your head up, lift your head back. Let me tell you, I've seen the movie so many times, it's like, listen, I have a semi-photographic memory anyway. And that's when you see the kids in the movie, and when you see the kid cut, we all think it was Mr. that was cut. And what was so cool about that scene, and whether you paid attention to it or not, I know that you did. Remember, Celi had shined the razor up for a minute, and he yelled at her, that razor sharp enough. I said, get over here and cut me. Now remember, when Suge grabs her hand, you could see she's struggling, because Celi was ready to cut that behind up. And what did Suge say? I don't think that razor sharp. I think that razor looked mighty dull to me, Miss Celi. Don't you think so? And that's when he grabs his neck, because he just watched her shine that razor up for a minute. And then we go to the famous kitchen scene. And then at that point, Celi leaves with Suge. She finds her voice, and she finds her spine, and she's now ready to go. And of course, when she puts that knife to his neck, I'm not going to trade places with you. And as Miss Sophia said, don't trade places with me either. And then we find out that the father wasn't her real father, that it was her stepfather. So she got the house, the business, she got money. But remember, she started to grow feelings for Mr. Stockholm Syndrome. So there's so much there, guys. So much. And my hope tonight, and I hope I did it, and I hope I did you guys a service. I hope I gave you something to think about. All of you ladies who are survivors, I tip my hat to you, and I say thank you for sharing, and thank you for making it through that to be here. Because God helped you get right here to be right here, and I hope that you'll continue to go out and help others by telling your stories. And next Tuesday, 8 o'clock, I am, when you've had enough, you find your voice. Amen to that, Tracy. Tracy said, when you've had enough, you find your voice. And that is always the hope, Tracy. That is the hope, that when people get to that point, because as we've been talking about since last week, people are trying, when someone's trying to destroy your will, when someone's trying to crush everything that makes you human, it can get you to a point that you give in. And I'm actually so glad that didn't happen. I'm so glad that all of you. Edith says, I think Mr. kept the letters in secret as part of his ego to have something over Celie. I agree, Edith. I think whatever it is, I think sometimes what is meant for evil turns out to be good. That sometimes the things that people want to put into motion to try to hold over you becomes the very noose that wraps around their neck. And so there's definitely something there to that, of why he held on to those letters. And I think what's really interesting for me, and I've told this joke a lot of times. Ioka said, I always thought he tried to redeem himself at the end. He did, to a degree, because at that point he realized, you know what, I might as well try to do something right. He did. He made an attempt to put things right. But I'm going to tell you a joke that I used to say about that, right? And I want y'all to pay attention to this. If y'all watch it tonight or tomorrow, I want you to pay attention to this. Now, remember at the dinner table, she said, he might have made somebody a good wife if you would have tried to raise him, da-da-da-da-da. And he said, well, my kids living in Africa. He said, your kids, what you talking about? You ain't got no kids. He said, well, I got kids, and they getting exercise, and they getting air. And when they come, we going to sit around and whoop your ass. Now, I want you to pay attention to that. Pardon my language if I offended anyone. The reason why I want you to pay attention to that is at the very end of the movie, when she meets her son Adam and her daughter Olivia, and then it's the very touching scene. And then when the movie moves to Nettie and Celie doing the Makidata, right? Now peep it. If you peep in the background, there's Mr. and his horse getting up out of Dodge. And when I saw the movie, I said, that's Mr. getting up out of town, because he's about to catch that fade. Because I was like, yo, the son and daughter's back. Mr.'s like, I'm out. Now, of course, they left it with Mr. in the background because it's all part of an ending shot. But my sense of humor was, yeah, Mr. getting up out of there now, because he's about to take that beating. Because she had said, when my kids come back. So he's like, okay, I did my good deed. Let me get up out of here with my horse before I catch it. But that's just me. But there's so much there. And I did do a sermon. He realized that he did not have control over Celie no more. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you something. If you peep it, they grew to care about each other. And it shows that. And I'm going to show you why. When Suge Avery comes back, remember, they jump up out of bed. They're laying in bed next to each other, and they're, oh, yeah, we got a couple of colds, because he's like, Suge is back and all of that. So they seem like their relationship, he was about to catch it, Kim said. They seem like a regular old married couple. But here's the thing. Remember when she sent Harpo and Miss Sophia home from the store? And she was at the door, and Mr. was out in the alleyway he was out in the area in front of the store, and she sees him and he sees her, and then she closes the blind and turns around. You could see that he knew what she brought, even amongst all the abuse. And I think that's where we started to see the change for him, is because remember when he was drunk at Harpo's juke joint when Oprah and Harpo and Miss Sophia and Harpo back together, he says, sure is great to see you two back together again. And they both stopped, like a compliment from him. He was saving money to get her to her family. No, I don't think he was. I think he had hid his money, because remember, they had found his other hiding place, Tony. I don't think he was saving money for the family, because remember when the letter came at it, and then he went out to the chicken coop and got money and went on down to immigrations. I don't think he was. I think this had started to change, where now he was getting older, Because if we go back to the part where Gabriel is coming up the way singing, I think that was where the movie was trying to take us, because the movie started to take us where Suge makes amends with her father and busts in the church, and her and her father have their moment. But remember, that's for me where the Mississilli Factor, the sermon that I preached on, is that you see that everybody is happy. Miss Suge got what she wanted. She's back with her father. One person in that church who was super unhappy is Celie, because everybody got what they wanted, but she's still because the one person who loved her is still not there. And then, of course, it leads to her family coming back. So that moment is right after that, because we're still on the high of the emotion of the church, with Mr. sitting there rocking back as Suge is singing. And then now he's moved to go do that and pay for her family and get her family back. But either way, guys, I hope that when you watch the movie, you look at it through a little subtly different lens. I hope I brought that to you tonight. And I want to say to everybody, I want to say thank you to all of you guys who take the time out. Now I'm going to, if anybody wants to join us in the Zoom room next Tuesday, 8 o'clock, here's the link. Tuesday, 8 o'clock, we're going to, inviting all the survivors. My favorite part of the movie is when Miss Celie said, "Until you do right." Oh, of course, that's the classic, Kim. She said, "Yeah, I may be ugly, but I'm here." And she was right. Until you do right by me. And if you peep, the house was screwed up. Like if you peep after she left, Goats was on was on the porch. He was laying in the kitchen drunk. That's when his pops came up and said, "Man, you need to get you a young girl." He said, "Man, get up out of here." You see how the house was all screwed up after Celie left. So you see that she did play a major role in his life. But I just posted in the chat, guys, is the Zoom meeting room next Tuesday, 8 o'clock. And it's simply a meet and greet, an opportunity for all the survivors and a couple of the brothers who come in to support, T to the Y, Flex, and Larry, you know. And I want to just have some time of fellowship, about a good hour or so, just to allow the ladies so we can see each other face to face, and you ladies can share your stories and just come together, because I want to sit at your feet and just learn, because as I move forward, as I have people reach out who may be in pain, the things I hear from you, the things I read from you guys will allow me to, as I do what I do as a counselor, is to help people by being as real as possible. And I use everything: movies, books, magazines, social media. I use it all to try to get people's attentions, because whatever I can get them to the table with to be able to open up and allow me to help what's wrong, that's what I do. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to everybody. And if I brought something to the table for you, if I brought something, and just put a 1 in the chat room if you had some value, if this has been of value to you the last 5 days. Now we've covered this 5 days. If it's been something of value, put a 1 up in the chat room, because it has been my pleasure. So shout out to Edith, shout out to Kim, shout out to Tony, shout out to Ioka. Great to see you here, Ioka. You know, I hope to see you Tuesday. You can share. Let me see who else. Ioka, Charlotte was here. Great to see you, Charlotte. Tracy, thank you so much for your commentary tonight. I appreciate that. Kira, as always, thank you. Queen Nikita was here. I didn't hear from Queen tonight, but she was here. Appreciate that. T to the Y, steady, always steady here. Appreciate you, brother, bringing the influence from the male's perspective. I don't know what happened to Flex tonight, and I didn't see Larry tonight, but I definitely appreciate you guys. And I appreciate all the ones that mean something to me. And to all you survivors, praise the Lord. I am so happy. I was want to say thank you, Barbara Jean, for popping in. I appreciate, and thank you for sharing. I put in the chat room, Barbara, we have a link, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, guys. I'm inviting all the survivors. Come tell your story. I just want to sit at your feet and listen. I want to hear and I want you guys to be able to connect with each other, because you have something in common. You have a blessing. You have a blessing to still be alive. You have a blessing to have gotten past it. And I marvel at your strength, because there's a lot of women that have not been able to get out of that situation, and some women have lost their lives, and some men. Don't allow me to exclude the men who have been in domestic violence situations. We never want to do that. And to anybody watching this, and I can't remember the young lady's name. I wish I should have wrote it down. I hope that you've watched all of the videos that we've done, watched all of the shows. And I hope that if there is any negativity, please let me know. Put it in my inbox. Let's talk about it, because I never want any survivor to feel any way negative about anything that I've done. And I don't want to in any way to diminish anything that you've done to get yourself out of the situation that freed yourself from that bondage. And to anybody else watching this video tonight, if you know somebody who's in this situation, have them reach out to me. That's my information on the screen right there. bit.ly/Coach Keith. And thank you, Tony. And I'll see you guys too. Well, I'll be back on Friday. I don't know what we're going to talk about Friday. We just might open up the door and just have some fun Friday to lighten up. It's been real deep these last 5 shows. So Friday, we might just have some fun. I'll figure something out what we're going to talk about on Friday and Monday. But next Tuesday, the link is in the chat. Put it down. I want to see everybody in the Zoom room. And again, it's an opportunity to fellowship. I want to hear what everybody's doing. I want to know where everybody is in the country. And I want everybody to be able to share with each other, because we're as strong as we can be if we reach out. And as you hear me all the time say, we can fix this, because I believe that God has given us everything that we need to fix everything that's going to. There's Brother Jose. What's going on, Jose? That's another brother there too. Appreciate you, brother. Always appreciate your support. But anybody in this chat room that needs to talk, or anybody in this chat room that needs assistance, reach out to me. bit.ly/Coach Keith. This is what I do. And set up a call with me. Let's figure something out. If you need somebody to hold you accountable to anything, if you need somebody to talk to, if you need somebody that whatever, this is what I do. This is what I do on a regular basis. And some of the young ladies and some of the men that I talk to privately, I have seen the Mississillis, and I've seen men who were misters and had to free themselves from that and make amends for that. And this is what I do. This is the reason why, if you look over my shoulder here, my book From Gigolo to Jesus, well, actually I have a copy here. My book From Gigolo to Jesus was written with the idea to explain to you how I went from being that misogynistic whore to a man of God, because my goal was to try to help as many people as possible. So now is at the point of the show where I say to you, I ask you for your support. And all I want you to do is to like this and share this. And if you decide that you want to support, that's fine. I'm here. All I need you to do is tell the people that are connected to you about me. I'll take it from there. Tell them to tell me that they know you. And we'll set something up and we'll work something out, because we can fix this. I believe that. And this is what I do. And I try to serve the Lord the best that I can by making sure that I make myself accessible to those that need me. And again, I want to give a special shout out to Tony, because this wasn't even a subject that was on my radar. And when she presented it to me, a part of me was like, do I want to do that? Because I didn't want to do it an injustice, because I know how serious this is and I know the rate of abuse. But once she asked me, I said, okay, once I started to read, I felt that there was a lane that I could get into. Thank you. I appreciate that, Kim. Thank you so much. Because the goal is to open up the door for people that need help. This is what I do. This is my ministry. I am a Christian counselor, and I work with everybody, because we all need some help, as my coach Glenn P. Brooks says, because we do. And I show up 3 times a week, as I'm on every day, because I want you to know this is somebody that you can trust, and I'm here to help. And those that know me know that. And if you don't know me, you'll get to know me. You'll learn. I'm that guy. I just need to speak up some more, as I've been hearing from some folks asking me, how come I haven't been doing more? So I'm here. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for surviving. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for getting out of the situation that you were in where somebody was hurting you. And as we have said all week, love is not supposed to hurt. It is not love if they're hurting you. It is not love if they are beating you. It is not love when they're trying to steal your soul. It is love when they enhance you. It is love when they build you. It is love when they walk with you hand in hand in a bond that makes you closer together than you ever could be by yourself. Love lifts. Love doesn't tear down. So again, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you. In honor of Breonna Warren, my niece who lost her life in May to a murder-suicide. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, I think that would be a great way to honor her. And we'll dedicate all these shows to her. And I'm going to dedicate all these shows to women here who have suffered through what you suffered through and allowed us to see it. Hey, Tony, good to see you. But I just want to say thank you again. It has been a pleasure. It has been, and I know I'm going to be sitting here crying all through Color Purple now. Y'all done messed me up now. Now I ain't never going to be able to watch Color Purple the same way again, but it's okay. I'm going to watch it tonight as I get ready. I got to do my mentorship tomorrow. I have some young men that I mentor every Thursday at the Juvenile Detention Center. So I have to think about what my lesson is going to be. And I think that's one of the things I'm going to talk about tomorrow is putting your hands on females and how do we prevent that? And how can we change that? And I think that's something I'm going to go with for tomorrow. But again, I just want to say thank you. It has been great. And I'm blown away by all of the responses. You guys in the chat room. Thank you so much. And Tony, thank you for popping in. Jose, Jose, great to see you here. Tony, let me say goodbye to everybody right away. Jose, thank you so much. Tony, thank you so much. Tanya, thank you so much. Kim, thank you so much. Barbara, good to see you, Barbara. Welcome. Tracy on YouTube, I see you. Edith, good to see you. Hope that we'll see you again. Ioka, thank you. Hope that I'll see you again. I know Kira was around. T to the Y, you too. Thank you so much for your steady support. Queen Nikita, Charlotte, thank you so much for popping in. Tracy, I don't want to miss out. Yeah, I got Tracy, got Kira, and we got Nikita. I think that's everybody. T to the Y, yeah, I got everybody. So guys, I will see you Friday. We're gonna liven things up. I'll figure out what we're gonna do. I'll figure out what we're going to talk about on Friday. We got to pick up the pay. I'm going to pick up something Friday. I want to, not too deep. We're going to have some fun. We'll figure something out and have a conversation. So good night, everybody. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Make sure that you like this. Make sure that you share this. Make sure you tell folks to come and support me. My books, my counseling. We got it. I'm here. Just reach out. I'll put all that information in the chat room. As soon as I jump off here, I'll come back in and pop something in. And again, let me just put this up in case anybody needs it. This is the information to the Zoom room on Tuesday, 8 o'clock. Tuesday, 8 o'clock. That is where we're going to meet at. That's the information. And it is open to all domestic violence survivors. You want to hear your story, and we want to be able to allow you to network with other young ladies and a few of the gentlemen that will be around. And we need to let folks know what's going on, where we are around this country, because as you hear me say all the time, we can fix this. God bless.